Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the South Haven City Council. Today is Monday, July 21st, 2025. This meeting is called to order. Tonight's invocation is by Pastor Eric Jarvis of First Assembly of God Church.
Lord Jesus, thank you for this day. First of all, you remind us and encourage us in your word that it's a good thing to give thanks to you. So we give thanks to you this evening as we begin this meeting. And then you also encourage us to come boldly to your throne of grace to ask for help in time of our need. And so, Lord, we're neither ashamed nor hesitant to come before you today and say, help us. Be in this place. And, Lord, lead us, guide us, direct us, speak to us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Megan, could we have a roll call, please?
Of course. Jeff Arnold. Mary Hosley.
Here.
Wendy Onuki.
Here.
Joe Reeser.
Here.
George Sleeper.
Here.
Letitia Wilkins.
Here.
Andy Brown.
Here. Is there a motion to excuse Jeff Arnold?
I make a motion to excuse Councilmember Arnold.
Support.
All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? He is excused for personal reasons. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. It is now time for a community update from Van Buren County Commissioner Gail Patterson-Gladney. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Hello. I brought some more Van Buren County directories, if anyone's interested. These are very important, as I said before. They're complements of the Van Buren County Board of Commissioners, and they have a way that you can sign up for alerts if you want to know all about the weather alerts, et cetera, whatever's going on in the county. On the second page, you can find all that information. We have elected officials, offices, courts, county departments, and so please make sure you look at this because you can get a lot of information about your taxes, paying your taxes, et cetera. So I wanted to give you some updates, but first I wanted to say the AAUW Candidates Forum went very well, and if you didn't get a chance to go, I wonder if AAUW has a film, took a recording. You don't think so?
I do not think so.
Okay. But if you ever get a chance to go to the City Candidates Forum, they are very good, and I thought it was a great success. Okay, some of the highlights. The Van Buren County Specialty Court for fiscal year 2026. The Board of Commissioners approved the submission of grant applications to the Specialty Court Administrative Office for continued funding, and the potential award is a little greater than $734,500. Also, I wanted to let you know that there's going to be a meeting change of the Board of Commissioners. We usually have it on Tuesday, the first and third Tuesday of the month, but beginning on Monday, September 8th, we're going to have the Board of Commissioners on that Monday instead of the Tuesday, September 9th. And I might have mentioned this before, but in case you drive all the way to Paw Paw to attend, we would not be there on Tuesday. You can also attend by Zoom by going on to our county website, VanBurenCountyMI.gov. And so that you can find out what's going on. We also do recordings, and you can also participate by looking at that. If you do attend the Zoom meeting, you can ask questions also. I just talked to John Fall, our county administrator, today about Palisades, and I did meet with some of the administrative officers at Palisades. They still are hoping for the reopening this year, and that's what they're aiming for. It all depends on the licensing process. And then some upcoming events for the Veteran Services. July 31st is the next Veterans Social, and that's at their office at 226 East Michigan Avenue in Paw Paw from 6 to 8 p.m. So if you know veterans, please let them know they and their family are welcome. On August 16th, the Still Headers event, Pack the Piers, welcoming the veterans and that go fishing with the different volunteers. Are you familiar with that? Have you attended? Yes. It's really a good event to go to. And then I wanted to remind the veterans of the dental program that's through the county Veterans Service Department, and veterans and their spouses can get dental services. I don't know what the amount is this year because there were some changes in the funding. So you can contact either Dennis, Mike, or David, and there are numbers in here under Veterans Department. Tomorrow, the Board of Commissioners will be looking at a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between the Digital Information Departments for Van Buren County and St. Joseph, Michigan. We are combining to work on AI, artificial intelligence, and how we can help our counties to do a better job in serving our citizens. They are going to have a memorandum of understanding with Western Michigan University, and the collaboration would be with Western Michigan University's Center for Excellence in Research and Public Service and the School of Public Affairs and Administration. The purpose of the collaboration is to strengthen local government capacity in AI, data analytics, digital communications, and community development, and their students would be working alongside of us. And so hopefully we'll have the most up-to-date information. Susan Sliderveen, who's our county prosecutor, has requested an authorization for out-of-state travel for two to attend the Crimes Against Women and Children Conference, and that's August 2nd through the 7th. And I'm looking forward to meeting with her afterwards to find out what are important things that she learned and that I could pass on to others. There's going to be a recycle roundup for residents and landowners for the county, and it's going to be August 2nd from 9 to 2 p.m. at the South Haven DPW. And if you have tires to recycle, you have to register ahead of time at 269-633-9314. So you can call ahead and let them know you're bringing in tires. And then the last thing I would like to let you know about is our budget. We have a draft budget for fiscal year 2025 to 2026. We're going to be discussing tomorrow at our meeting. Rebecca Grabermeyer, who's our finance director, is going to present that. And the timeline is that on July 22nd, we get the presentation of the draft budget, and then we set a public hearing for August 12th. And so the board will hold that mandated public hearing to solicit input. So if anyone has input, please come to that. Usually it's about 15 minutes before we have our board meetings. And then August 26th, the board reviews the final budget for all funds, policies, and capital improvement plan. And by September 8th, we will formally adopt the fiscal year 2025-26 budget for all the funds. So if you have any questions, please let me know. And also feel free to use your county directory to call our county administrator or anyone else in the departments. Okay, do you have any questions?
Any questions for Gail?
No? Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have public comment for items on the agenda, excluding items scheduled for public hearing, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Diane Carlson, 74 South Haven Street. I have some comments that I think are pertinent to what the police chief might give us an update on for safety. Can I do that here?
Sure.
Okay. So my question is basically about the speeding, the cruising that go on in the city, all around the city, that we seem to not be able to get under control. And I'm wondering if there's a plan to look at that a little bit more seriously than they have been. We're talking about speed bumps or whatever, what have you, to try to get it under control so that when they start off at 7 in the evening, they go on till 2, 3 in the morning, and it's kind of nonstop. And it's especially important around Monroe Boulevard and the Blue Stairs. That's been happening a lot, and they're going really fast. And adjacent to that is Kids Corner. Kids Corner. I have grave concerns about the safety for the little kids that are running around out there, and people are going really, really fast. It's not all tourists. It's a lot of locals, and it happens all the time. It starts in March as soon as the weather breaks, so I know a lot of it's locals, and it doesn't seem to be something that we are able to manage. And I know that it has to be, people have to be caught, but we see it and we witness it all the time. So that's my question to the police chief.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Keith Kalinowski, 270 Oak Street. I sent a note to council yesterday, but I will read it just to make sure that it's been received. It's concerning the lack of clarity for the fee structures, and as outlined in Exhibit A, page 83, in the vote on the resolution to approve the fee schedule. Since their inception, we have had STR permits and inspections for our studio unit at North Shore Condominiums and our one-bedroom unit at Bentry. We are concerned that City Council will be voting to approve the resolution to approve a fee schedule for the administration of the short-term rental program established under Article 5 of Chapter 14 of the city, even though the fee structures are not clear and are arbitrary. Recently, we have been paying $600 annually for the license and inspection of each unit. Does the new fee structure mean that once this resolution is approved, we will need to pay an initial zoning compliance determination of $900 plus an application and inspection fee, Class 1, of $450 plus a licensing fee of $750, totaling $2,100 for each unit, and then $750 every 2 years for a licensing fee, Class 1, plus application and inspection fee of $450, plus subsequent zoning compliance determination, same property, of $250, or a total of $1,450. So I'm looking for an explanation as to the fee structure. And does this also mean that the owner of a one-room studio like we have to pay the same STR fees that an owner of a 5 or 6 bedroom home, rental home, does? And are these fees commensurate with the work involved in inspecting these properties, especially the larger properties? For example, lack of and the problems that they present the city and Shays. The larger properties, to my understanding, there are issues with lack of parking spaces, unruly parties, neighbor complaints, resident displacement, and others. Shouldn't there be a direct correlation with fees charged to the expenses incurred? Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Beck, 879 Monroe Boulevard. I'm sure you've all missed me. I haven't seen you guys for a while. I hope your summer's going well. I'm here to talk about what I'm usually here to talk about, which is contamination and the Overton property. I'm for affordable housing. I want to make that clear from the start.
Could you move the microphone a little bit closer to your mouth? Thank you.
I'm so nervous. I'm for affordable housing, and I'd like that to be known right up front. I think the new design for the Overton property is really heading in the right direction, even though it's weird to be making a comment before the presentation, but I have looked at the plan. I'd like to tell you why this is important, so I'm going to try and make it really quick. But sometimes my intent has been misconstrued or misinterpreted. I feel strongly on this for several reasons. One is my first job as a writer was investigative reporting, and I did an article on contamination of soil that had been given by the city that was known to be contaminated to people for their community gardens, underprivileged or middle-class people. They knew this. I got out of investigative reporting. It was devastating, the results years later. It was really horrible. The second reason is my sister, who was 48 with 3 kids, died of breast cancer. They have connected that to chemicals. The third is my brother has a PhD in agriculture and geography. He was dean of the department in LSU, and he has taught at Western for 30 years in that department. He knows that some brownfields are different than other brownfields. He lives next to 2 of them. And finally, I grew up in a small town, Easton, Maryland, and 17 firefighters have cancer now out of like 30 that I grew up with based on the foam that they use. And that was not known. They didn't know that the foam was dangerous, right? But we do know that the chemicals in Overton are dangerous. There's a long list. I've been up here many, many times with the list of chemicals. One of them in particular is TCE. I'll try and make this quick. I'm usually not good at reading stuff, so I'll kind of highlight. TCE, which I prefer the abbreviation because I really can't say the word, it's very, very cancerous, very toxic. According to AI and other sources, it can persist in soil and groundwater for long periods, potentially migrating to different areas. It is difficult to locate and bring to the surface for treatment because it's denser than water. It can vary significantly from site to site, depending on the site. It has the potential for byproduct formation to make, and I quote this, which may be more toxic or persistent than the original TCE. I'm sure there's a plan to remediate it. Last time, we skipped the environmental studies test. We skipped the information about cleaning it up, and that's why we're here today. We're here today because we skipped the most important parts. I don't want to see that happen again. And the other thing is how the cleanup will be funded. Even if you get money from the state, I think you need to think about this. The factory building in the back, I'm sure you guys are familiar with it, in the backyard there. It's cost them so far $11 million, and they came in last spring or middle of summer, and they haven't done it yet. They're not sure how to clean it up yet. So they're trying something different. So I think we need to think about that. I know that tonight I'm speaking for several people that are out of town and some neighbors that are watching. It's something I feel very strongly about. I don't think that people should be forced to live in toxic areas because that's what they can afford or not afford. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Wilkins, 811 Indiana Street. And I want to start by saying, those that have came before us and talked about the contamination, concern for the contamination, I do believe that they may have good intentions of protecting the people, but I saw with that group was very effective in derailing the first attempt at putting homes there. So I want to speak tonight because I don't want that to be an issue again with this project going forward. I'm just going to rehearse some history that we had after the town hall meeting. On June 18, 2024, the staff held a public town hall meeting at the South Haven Listiak Auditorium with experts from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Entergy Eagle, along with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, MEDC. This meeting was open to all the residents of our community so that they could get answers to any of their questions or concerns. During this meeting, Eagle went over brownfield redevelopment and analyzing risk at the Overton site. The MEDC went over the next steps for their redevelopment team. In 2017-2018, a chariot workshop was conducted to gather ideas of what to do with the property, and housing was clearly our top priority, within the top 3 priority. As you know, affordable housing or workforce housing has been this city and council top 3 priorities for years now, and it seems like we're no closer to breaking ground than we were several years ago under the Habitat deal. I know staff and council would disagree with this statement, but when you see homes going up as fast as they are across the street within 50 yards of the Overton property, actually Everton Piano Factory property, it's very discouraging. It makes you wonder, how can those homes go up so fast? And it's a contamination issue. During the town hall meeting, our former assistant city manager, Griffin Graham, clearly stated that after the purchase of Overton property in 2014-2015, a BEA and due care plan was conducted, which resulted in a development of a brownfield plan. And as a result, he stated truthfully that Overton property is in even better shape now than it was at the time of purchase. Also, I want to point out that this town hall meeting did not have the level of attendance that would be expected from a community with a large number of questions and concerns, which leads me to believe that the reason behind those who pushed back or spoke out against the Overton property being used for housing years ago and those who continue to oppose it today has to be more than just contamination. Especially since during the meeting, Doug Coop of Eagle and Nate Scramlin of MEDC spoke to the remediation of the Overton property and the building of new homes on that site. During that town hall meeting, both gentlemen fielded questions and answered many concerns from residents that were present, and I was pleased to hear from both experts that there is absolutely, and this came from Doug, there is absolutely nothing on the Overton property, no contamination that would prohibit housing being built on that property. And so I find it hard to see this great push still to stop housing on that property when you have experts that have already spoken to that situation or that issue. In fact, both gentlemen told me personally after the meeting that they have successfully overseen land remediation and housing projects on brownfield sites that were in worse conditions than the Overton property. So I'm asking the staff and the council to at least prepare to give the
You have
residents
1 minute.
at least prepare to give the residents a monthly update of the Overton project. Our homeless population is growing. We have a lot of individuals that don't have homes looking to buy homes. You got young people can't buy homes. I mean, professional young people. My son's an engineer, and he can't purchase a home here. We heard the numbers. The trailside housing is starting off at $300 and something. They're not affordable. We need affordable, if you want to call them affordable, or workforce housing. We need a housing range where our young professionals can afford to buy them. So I want us to cut off this move, fear of contamination, because it's only going to serve as a negative to try to stop this project from going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Kathleen Ben, 223 North Shore Drive, Unit 101. I have the pleasure of being the president of North Shore Condominiums, 79 units, of which 40 are STRs. I am in support of my colleague Keith Kalinowski, who just spoke, and I have a couple additional comments here. With the new fee structure, again, we really need some clarification on what Keith was saying with the fees. Again, it looks like $2,100 to have a first-year license for us. We rent a studio for about $16,000 a year. That's all we get from a studio. So our cost with the city is going to move from 3% to 12.5%. That's a little excessive taxation for us, I would say. On a one-bedroom, it would move from 2.5% to 8.75%. It's a big increase for us. And then we're also part of the overlay district. I'm currently working with a couple to buy a condominium there that would like to have a short-term rental. So yes, we can go ahead and do that based on our current rules. However, now we have to go get the special land use permit. I'm unable to find that application fee right now, or I would have a better number. But again, that's $2,100 plus to get them to be able to purchase. You know, we do want to take care of our property values. You know, we don't have people calling the hotline number. We don't, you know, we're self-managed here. I'm on site every day booting people off or making them behave and, you know, parking, everything else. So I would ask that we have, you know, really some good clarification on this issue and to reconsider. Otherwise, you know, I like how everything ties together now with all the commissions are finally agreeing. That's been great. And we've worked well at trying to get some balance to the city. So I appreciate that help too. So anything you can do for us, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further questions or comments, we're moving on to the consent agenda. Items A through E. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through E.
Second.
Any discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Of course. Hasley,
Yes.
Onuki,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to old business, the city council will be asked to consider approval of the following amendments to existing vending license agreements. A, second amendment to the North Beach concession license agreement with VHF Incorporated to continue until December 31st, 2030. B, second amendment to the South Beach concession license agreement with South Beach Cafe LLC to continue until December 31st, 2030. C, first amendment to the North Beach kayak license agreement with Soha Surf Shop LLC to continue until December 31st, 2030. And D, first amendment to the South Beach kayak license agreement with Soha Surf Shop LLC to continue until December 31st, 2030. And E, first amendment to the Black River Park kayak license agreement with Soha Surf Shop LLC to continue until December 31st, 2030. Kate.
Thank you, Mayor. Bringing back the first two amendments to the beach concession license agreements, we have all of the vendors here today. So we have VHF, South Beach Cafe, and Soha Surf Shop. Also bringing to the council is the first time for these amendments to the kayak agreements. Staff looked into the issue that was raised last time about alternatives for funding with the beach concessions. We did determine that that really was not an avenue open to us, but we have negotiated these flat amounts with the concessionaires. We also have negotiated with the kayak agreements for them to pay 15% of their sales, as well as a $1,000 administration fee. This is something a little bit different from the previous versions because The three previous kayak agreements were all a little bit different. One was 15%, one was 10%, one was 18%. So what we've done is we finalized them and got them all the same across the board. With the beach concessions, I did note here that we are seeing an increased amount. These will all go right to the beach fund, but it's also important to note that the city gets a substantial benefit from these concessionaires. These concessionaires stock and clean these bathrooms several times a day, which they get heavily used. And should we have to hire two park staff to ultimately give us the same kind of services for those bathrooms, it would cost us likely around $45,000 out of the beach fund. So this is a large benefit that the city has. I do appreciate the idea of trying to look outside the box as we're all looking at funding, but I think that we've negotiated some good agreements here, and just curious if council has any questions.
Any questions?
I'd just like to thank Kate for talking over a few points to help clarify everything, so thank you.
Thank you.
So the concept of adding a tax is illegal in Michigan?
Yes, you can't add your own sales tax. I mean, there's a lot of ways that we've been able to work license agreements around, but here's what we've done is we've negotiated this flat fee because we are seeing an extreme benefit to the city with the beach cleaning. Or, I'm sorry, with the restroom cleaning.
Yeah.
The kayak agreement, also they have to maintain their area, clean up around there, so there's a lot of benefit of having extra eyes on the beach.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I'd like to make a statement. Since I was the one that suggested maybe adding a tax or a fee, I'd like to address it. The lawyer made it clear that's not possible. But one resident came up with an idea, and one of the reasons I brought this whole thing up is to get people to start talking about it and coming up with ideas, creative ideas to pay for lifeguards. So one resident said maybe we could do a percentage of gross revenue as part of their lease term agreement. Then I spoke after DDA, which I'm on, Todd, who I think is sitting here, and he talked to me, and he said they're already paying increased cost of goods. They're already paying the city higher fees, and he's trying not to pass along to the consumer, which he thinks will get a pushback. So that didn't make sense, but I appreciate him talking to me. But he did also come up with an idea. Whether it works or not, it's just another little tool in our toolbox that we can consider. And he said maybe we could put advertising space on a lifeguard stand, such as Walmart or Meijer supports lifeguards and beach safety, and could we charge them? Now, Kate said that would create another issue of changing the ordinance, but it is something. My point of this whole thing is we as residents, we as city council need to put our creative hats on and try to come up with some ideas short of raising taxes on residents for lifeguards. So the bottom line is we need to keep looking at ways, and I appreciate Todd, and I always appreciate business owners that are the ones being impacted, that they come forward and give us their opinion. Thanks.
Thanks. Is there any other discussion?
If I would just piggyback on that, that discussion really was just, as you said, to start people thinking. And the reason I had changed my vote is to give us an opportunity to determine what could or could not be done, because once the agreement was entered into, that was it. So I appreciate everyone giving us that additional time to clarify things. And yes, Wendy and I actually saw the advertising on beach stands in New Buffalo. So I think we need to also talk with local jurisdictions of how they fund it. I think, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, and we could get some great suggestions from other municipalities if we talk to them. With that said, I would move to support the amendments to the Second Amendment to the North Beach Concession License Agreement, to the Second Amendment to the South Beach Concession License Agreement, the First Amendment to the North Beach Kayak License Agreement, the First Amendment to the South Beach Kayak License Agreement, and the First Amendment to the Black River Park Kayak License Agreement as read by the mayor.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you to our vendors who are here tonight. We appreciate everything you're doing, so thank you. Moving on, new business. The council will be asked to consider approval of the following special events. Special event application 2025-36, Van Buren County Dams Picnic Fundraiser to be held on Saturday, August 9th, 2025, from 2 to 5:30 p.m. at Hartman Park. B, special event application 2025-37, National Night Out to be held on Tuesday, August 5th, 2025, from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Huron Street Pavilion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve special event application 2025-36 and 2025-37 as read by the mayor.
Support.
All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? The events are approved. Moving on, the city council will be asked to approve resolution 2025-26, a resolution to approve a fee schedule for the administration of the short-term rental program established under Article 5 of Chapter 14 of the City Code. Kate?
Thank you, Mayor. As we all know, we've worked on a short-term rental ordinance that has both a regulatory aspect and a zoning aspect. What we need to do, what staff are trying to do, is get the fee schedule established for the new programs, the new programs fees. We are looking at a zoning compliance portion. We saw that as being the first step, and yes, that is, we estimate that at about 4 hours of attorney time for each zoning compliance determination, because ultimately what it is it's walking through all the records of when that use was first established. So that's a pretty exhaustive review, in addition to the inspection, the application, the inspection, and of course your licensing fees. We tried to keep them as similar as we could, knowing that this is now a 2-year program, so we have to have 2 years of program fees coming in. So when you add the $450 and the $750 up, that comes up to $1,200. That's still a $600 permit for 2 years. I should say $600 permit for each year of the 2-year period. What is new is the new zoning compliance determination, and that's where we saw a lot of work going into, because it's pivotal. It's what sets whether or not the legal nonconformity and to the extent that has. Kelly, Dave, anything you want to add on to that?
Yeah, as Kate said, the goal in putting these fees together was really to capture the cost to the city. Okay, these are not intended to generate revenue, as that term is traditionally understood. It's revenue in the sense that there's expenses for the program, and those expenses need to be covered. That is the intention in doing this. I think, this is something that council is responsible for doing. If staff had some working documents and we put together some spreadsheets and we talked about things, those are obviously not in the packet, but I think staff's in agreement that if that is something that members of council feel they need to see, I guess, show us the work, that's something that staff is happy to be able to provide. It would just have to be at a later date, and maybe if there are members of council that aren't comfortable just approving these numbers with the understanding of that was our goal, we could provide those, and council's welcome to walk through those with us. And if you agree on the estimates or disagree on the estimates, that's definitely council's prerogative, and then you can refine the numbers to what council believes would represent capturing the costs of the program. From legal's perspective, again, it's just we want to make sure that they are reasonably proportional to the cost of the program.
And I think it might be helpful for us to clarify how we see this program working. And I know there was been some concerns about the initial zoning compliance determination, what's a subsequent zoning compliance determination. The idea is that your first zoning compliance determination is so intensive because you're looking at all the documents for the first time. That's where we estimated the $900. Should nothing change, that's why we're thinking for a subsequent one. You look at the prior determination, if anything has not changed, then it should be a very quick review. So that shows the kind of coming down off that fee based on the kind of work proportional that we see happening. And we do see two different kind of application and inspection fees for Class 1, which are the more intensive uses, versus Class 2, which was normally called the personal unit. So the personals are around $250 for the application and inspection fee, and then the licensing fee for a 2-year Class 2 permit is $250.
And I will add, to address one of the issues that was raised in comment, and I believe it's also been raised by members of this council before, and I'll let Kelly and Kate fill in the details if necessary, but one of the questions we've gotten is, well, why should the fee for a studio apartment be more than a fee for a 5-bedroom? And we did talk about that, and in talking about it, we really came down to, well, are the costs to the city any different? And we weren't really able to pinpoint a very explicit example to where the cost to the city would be different. The cost to the city to do the inspection is the same. It's a fee that the city pays to Shays under contract. Doing a zoning compliance determination, it doesn't matter if you're a 1-bedroom or a 5-bedroom. So we weren't able to clearly identify a scenario in which the cost to the city would be different based off the number of rooms being rented.
Thank you.
And I would, I guess, lastly add that we're trying to make sure that we have enough program revenue coming in to cover costs, because this council has been very clear with me, they don't want to see STR fees hitting the general fund. So this is what we're trying to make sure, is that we're covering what the program costs to oversee and manage and implement this program.
And it's a bigger program that under the current, Kelly can speak more to this, but the program itself that you're going to have to account for, regardless of the number of rentals, it's just a bigger program given the nature of the regulatory requirements in the ordinance.
Any questions? Joe?
Yeah, my only comment is, one thing I hear over and over again from residents is enforcement. And we need the money if we're going to enforce it to do just that. So I'm for this because part of it has to be the enforcement. And that's the part that's most frustrating for Kelly to speak to residents when they have complaints, for the residents have to call in. So this gives us more money for enforcement. So I think that's important.
George?
We used to have a report that we get every year that would kind of look at the fees that are paid into the short-term rental program and then all our expenses, and we would kind of look to see whether or not we need to adjust. Is that still going to happen?
We can.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the idea is to try to figure out if does this meet the needs, or are we too high, or are we too low? So yes, we would like to continue to monitor that revenue source, because we're not here to make money off of this. This is really just meant to cover program costs, staff costs. I know that we've already used, we've already included, we had about 1.5 employees, and now we have 2 employees for the program now. And of course, it still covers some of Kelly's time as well.
And do you anticipate maybe like after a year, maybe looking at the costs?
Yes.
Okay. That's it.
Mary?
Yeah, I do not support these fees because I can point out 2 things. Plan unit developments under the prior ordinance, condos, they did not have to have on-site parking. The zoning compliance should be much easier for those dwelling units than the single-family dwellings. And for the larger dwellings, it'll be more labor-intensive to make sure the on-site parking is there. So that is one aspect that immediately comes to mind to show a disparity for those with smaller efficiency condos versus large homes where on-site parking is required. And the time for the zoning compliance should be less for the units that were in the exception to the prior law that did not require on-site parking. So that should make the zoning compliance easier. For subsequent, to warrant a different fee for the size, the type of dwelling. For the subsequent zoning compliance determination, if there has been no change in the property from one application time period to the next, I do not see a need for that subsequent zoning compliance determination. To ensure that there has been no changes, the application, should require a certified affidavit notary, subject to perjury, of the applicant saying there have been no changes. I've been saying that from the get-go, that the applicant should be subject to perjury for lying on the application. Our law-abiding citizens shouldn't worry about that. It should not be a concern. And that would then resolve the issue of having to have a subsequent zoning compliance determination. I would see that potentially going for a sale where the applicant would be different than the previous applicant. But from the same applicant, from application year to the next application cycle, I should say for simplicity, I don't see the need for that. Maybe you can explain that. I do believe it's not clear that the application and inspection fee is for a 2-year cycle, because it is not identified as 2 years as the licensing fee is identified as 2 years. So that clarity could help with that aspect of it. But again, yes, for the zoning compliance determination, so that there are no misunderstandings, and I have said this from the very beginning, that a checklist of what will be looked at for the zoning compliance determination would go towards transparency and gaining trust of everybody involved. So we know exactly what is going to be looked at for single-family residences, which is different than the planned unit development attached condos that were in the exception part of the previous law. So I appreciate the amount of work that went in. You had a lot to do, but the proof is in the pudding, and the pudding really is the zoning compliance determination, which I have heard a lot from residents. And also the fee, I do believe there's justification to have a different zoning compliance determination fee based on the type of dwelling unit. With regard to ensuring we have finances for enforcement, that's where I was concerned that the penalties were not high enough. We should not make the law-abiding short-term rental dwelling unit owners have to pay a higher licensing fee to ensure enforcement for those who are not complying. We need to start assessing fees for those who have violations reported, and rather than having them resolved, we need to assess fees, because that's where the expense is. And again, I cannot say it enough. The law-abiding short-term rental owners should not be required to pay a higher fee to subsidize enforcement when they're not causing the problem for the enforcement. I am looking at this from both sides. I really want to balance, and I am concerned that this is putting the burden too heavily on the administration part, when there's really two types of administration under the old law for zoning compliance, and we really need to find a more equitable way, in my opinion, to ensure that enforcement is funded, and it shouldn't be on the shoulders of the law-abiding ones.
Attorney Eberly.
Thank you, Mayor. The ordinance requires a zoning compliance determination as part of every application. So every 2 years you have to submit it. So that's something that's in the ordinance, and that's why staff has accounted for it as it has. If members of council don't like the fees, council can change them. Again, this is simply staff's best guess as to the cost of the program. We're happy to provide a more detailed spreadsheet that we can work through at a later meeting and go over that, and council can make the determination of whether or not they think the estimated time is appropriate. That is something staff is absolutely happy to do. As to the checklist for zoning compliance, As we've talked about before, the question for unlawful nonconforming uses was the use lawfully established before the zoning ordinance changed, i.e. what ordinances were in effect at the time, and did the use comply with them? I think it's generally impracticable to try to create a checklist going into extreme minutia as to every aspect of or every zoning order. You might as well, you argue, you're just reducing, at that point, you're reducing the zoning ordinance to a checklist, and it just seems to be unhelpful. And again, the point is for staff to be able to process these expeditiously. So I question whether or not that's a tool that would actually help staff. In terms of transparency, the old ordinance is what the old ordinance is, and then it's up to the property owner to go and look and say, well, I became a short-term rental at this time, and here's what the ordinance is. And it's such a fact-specific determination that sometimes when you reduce things that are so fact-specific to a checklist, it can be a little misleading. A member of the public may choose to use the checklist and think that they're beholden to the checklist, and the checklist is what is outcome determinative, and that's not the case. It's the ordinance itself. So I just question the use of a checklist in that case, and I don't think, from a staff perspective, that if I'm the attorney doing the review, that a checklist isn't what I need. I just need the ordinances at the time, and I can figure out when that use was established. In terms of fees covering the cost of enforcement, I think we need to be careful if we say that. What they do is they cover the cost of the administration of the program for the 2 years. And part of that is when you're licensed for 2 years, there is oversight, and part of that oversight might involve ensuring compliance, but that is distinct from the cost of actual enforcement and prosecution. Those aren't rolled up because those are individual instances where enforcement action is being taken. It's simply just the cost to administer the program, and I think it's helpful if you think about it in that way. In terms of wanting to increase fees, council set the fees in the ordinance, and council is more than welcome to change the fees. That's something that's well within council's wheelhouse to do.
Kelly, anything to add?
I don't have anything additional at this time.
Thank you. Any other? George?
So we have never had a compliance determination as part of our ordinance. So this is a new thing. And I'm inclined, I would like to see us go with what staff is recommending. We'll look at it again in a year. If it doesn't seem to be working out or it seems to be an imbalance, we can change it then. But this is staff has worked hard to get this to us. I say let's move forward and get this program going forward. I like the frequently asked questions information that's in the agenda packet. I think there's a lot of good information in there. And I hate to see us make the requirements so complicated that it even gets more difficult for the short-term rental owner to figure out what they have to do.
Joe?
Yeah, I tend to agree with George. If, in fact, the fees are too high, if, in fact, we pull in more money than we spent, then the next year we adjust it accordingly. In 2 years, we adjust it. We were always behind the curve trying to catch up with what we thought was going to be the fees or the cost. The second thing, I appreciate what Mary's saying, because I don't like to see good people pay for bad players. I got to tell you, every courtroom in this country, every policeman in this country, I'm paying for, and I've never been arrested, and I've never been in court. It is the cost of our society. You have people who break the rules, who we, the good people who don't break the rules, pay for. I know that's not quite the same as short-term rentals, but it's kind of the same theory. So I'm afraid I would support the way it's written.
Mary?
Yeah, I cannot support it, and it's very disappointing that resident-focused council members would not want a checklist to ensure that the on-site parking, especially in Ward 1, was compliant. I know that's one of the biggest concerns in the residents in Ward 1, That has always been a concern from my talking with them before I was elected. And it doesn't have to be a detailed list. That's one way to kill it right away, is to mischaracterize it. The way that you can do that is treetop level, parking. Was it required? Was it not required? If it was required, how many spaces? It's very nominal. It should not add to the overall workload. It should actually make it efficient and ensure the Ts are crossed and Is are dotted, with the one item that is most offensive, problematic to the community, especially in Ward 1, where I see frequently cars parked in the curb lawn, cars parked over the sidewalk, and not during times when one would be delivering things, but actually during early morning hours, 7, 8 a.m. With regard to the Q&A, I think the question about, 45 miles is not clear. I think it would be much more clear if they said, no, one no longer has to live within 45 miles, but they have to respond within 45 minutes. And they have to respond within 45 minutes of receipt. What constitutes a receipt? And how many, and I know I've been asked this by short-term rental owners and managers about whether they could provide more than one name. So they would have one name for 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and one name for 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. With regard to licenses in the window, actually the current law still requires the licenses in the window. It may not be enforced, but that has not been amended. And so I don't want there to be a disparity in that the FAQ is saying they're not required. The law says they are required, and then we get a complaint. Because until the person is under the new ordinance, the old ordinance does require that certificate in the window. And I would like to know what the time frame is for when the property is sold, when the new owner would be expected to apply for an STR license.
Okay, this discussion is about the fees. Okay.
Well, there was a comment about the FAQs, and so in light of that comment, it warranted my comments.
George, do you have a motion?
I do. I would like to approve the resolution 2025-26, the resolution to approve a fee schedule for the administration of the short-term rental program established under Article 5 of Chapter 14 of the City Code.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? Could we have a roll call, please?
Onuki,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Hasley,
No.
Brown.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on, the City Council will be asked to receive a presentation from Market One Director Zach Morris and consider approval of the proposed agreement for supplementary economic development services in the amount of $12,736.45 for fiscal year 2025 to 2026. Welcome. Great to see you.
Well, thank you, Mayor Brown and council members, city staff. Thank you for the opportunity here to provide a presentation, update on the work Market One is doing, and in partnership with city staff. And I want to thank the city staff. We work with 52 units of government through Cass and Van Buren counties, and you have an exceptional staff here. Trust me, there's some folks that do not keep up with the work you guys do here, and I want to just say thank you for the work they do and the partnership that we experience with them. Also joined here with our Community Development Director, Katie Vanderholst, and also our Economic Development Manager, Katie Molthoff. So they're both here to join me for the presentation, and they'll be doing parts of it also. So these are also some of the folks that you get it when you work in partnership with us. So I'd love to take credit for the whole thing, but I can't. I have a whole team here with me. So we'll do a presentation. Clicker here. I appreciate Pastor Wilkins' comments on housing. It is something that our team is working quite a bit on, and is experiencing this. Frankly, this isn't exclusive to South Haven or Van Buren County. This is a national problem that we have right now, is that we have not kept up with housing for some time. And it is a shame that our young folks who want to live in our community, and I'm not just saying South Haven in general, don't have opportunities to find affordable housing. And the crazy thing to think is that an affordable house right now is $300,000. And at current interest rates and among other things, it's a real challenge. So I know our team's working on that, the city staff's working on that, and there's a lot of smart people working on that right now. And, you know, how do we drive costs down? But we'll talk a little bit about that as we move forward here. So I'm going to start at a high level, talk a little bit about the work Market One in general is doing. So let's talk about that a little bit. And then I will hand it off to our Community Development Director, Katie Vanderholst, to talk a little bit about the work she's doing in that space, and then she'll hand it off to Katie Maltoff after that to talk a little bit about the work she's doing in the business development space. So starting out here, as a whole, Market One, since 2021, has been able to secure $34 million in grant funding for communities and businesses. This is collective, so this includes the work we've done on high-speed internet. This has been work we've done individually with businesses, you know, to help them secure money to support implementing Industry 4.0, to training dollars, to supporting downtowns, parks, housing. This is a collective whole of a lot of different money that we've been able to secure. But in 2021, our board of directors asked us to pivot, said just don't do traditional economic development. We need you to also support and be an extension of our communities and businesses to secure more grant dollars. And if you remember back in 21, there was a lot of dollars flowing at the time. We had a lot of money coming down from Washington into the state, and it was very clear that we needed to go out and make our case that some of that money should be coming into our communities too. And we did make that case, and I think we've been pretty successful. Now the opposite here is that we're back to the pre-2021 numbers, and grants are very competitive now, and you have to have a team of people helping you make sure you have a sound application and you're competitive in that work. Since 2016, our team has worked to create 1,284 jobs with companies. So these are companies, these are employers that are growing, that need help navigating the landscape to understand, you know, how do you handle this regulatory issue? How do you work with the local unit of government on tax abatements? How do we secure land, among other things? And our team comes out as the experts, consultative approach to making sure our businesses are supported, understand they have someone walking with them through the process. A lot of times the local units of government who are not as talented as yours need that help, and so our team also helps with that piece of it too. We've helped retain 1,941 jobs, and the purpose of that retention number is there's a lot of businesses who, without the opportunity of our support, just don't continue to exist and start scaling back. So we also count the retention numbers. We've helped support a capital investment of over $2 billion and foster economic impact of $2.2 billion, or $2.25 billion. And a lot of that is with working with the nuclear plant. Our team worked very closely with them, advocating at the state level with federal folks that we need this, not just because of the employment and tax base, which obviously is important here. And it's a big part of what's going on in the city in terms of just the revenue that comes in and the people that live here, creating year-round jobs where you can't afford good housing. But we look at the grid right now. The electric grid is not stable, and we all should be very concerned about the future of it with data centers. Data centers are absolute energy hogs. And I get calls all the time from developers asking for a minimum of 150 megawatts. Nuclear plant down the road is 800. That's a minimum of 150 megawatts. That's just getting started. So we know this nuclear plant's going to be important. We know also the SMR is going to be an important part of this. And, you know, who knows after that, because I don't think we're going to go back in generations of technology. This year, 2024-25, our team has helped create, and for your knowledge, edification, our fiscal year is July through June. So when we count this, our fiscal year closed June 30th. 128 jobs created, 543 retained, economic impact of $48 million. Next slide. Also, capital investment of $24 million there. There we go, our project pipeline. So a lot of it, what we just talked about was announcements. Announcements are the projects where companies says, yes, we are doing this. We are doing this project. This is, we're moving forward. Project pipeline is also equally important because that's the stuff that's going on. Every announcement, generally there's at least a year, 2 years, and I've had some projects that were 7 years in the works that finally got announced. And so every project announcement, what we don't see is everything underneath the iceberg, all the work that goes in behind the scenes, helping the company work through a lot of layers of getting to the point where they can announce it. So our pipeline is this: 227 jobs potentially to be created. Jobs retained 572, wage impact of $28 million, capital investment of 44, which means we could see an economic impact of $73 million through the work that our organization is doing. What I'm going to do now is hand it off to our Community Development Director, Katie Vanderholst, talk a little bit more about what's going on in her space and how she is working to impact the city of South Haven and the residents. Katie?
Thank you, Zach. Nice to meet you, council members. Hi, Kate. So I just started about 4 months ago, but it's been a busy 4 months, and I would like to talk a little bit about what we've been doing and what we would like to continue doing for the city moving forward if our proposal is approved. We are right now taking care of housing. It seems to be a huge issue, not only here, like Zach talked about, but in many communities as well. So that's what we're trying to tackle at the moment. We are working with 2 developers right now who are interested in creating affordable housing in the area. I do know, my understanding is that there is not a lot of parcels available in the city itself. So the way to tackle that is to create housing developments around the area, and that would be Covert Township and South Haven Township. So I've been working with both townships and a little bit with Kate as well to see what we can do for housing in the city itself. But there's 2 developers that are interested in developing housing in both townships. Next slide. Yeah, no problem. One of the areas to programs that we can use for affordable housing is the Employer-Assisted Housing Program. We are trying to tackle that through engaging schools in the area, Spencer Manufacturing as well, and W.R. Grace. They would be potentially the applicants for this program, and the program would support housing that would be for their staff and then for the residents of the area as well. And then another item for housing that would be supporting this endeavor is a list of current parcels. So we want to keep this list updated for both the city as well as both townships, just so it's easy for marketing and attraction when we are working with developers, not only the 2 that we're working with right now, but also potential that might come up in the near future. Today, I actually had some good news. I know that Michael spoke a little bit with Kate about what we had discussed during our meeting. I know that the city did submit an LOI for Mishta CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant, and we have been, or the city, should I say, has been given the clear to move forward to the application process. So we will be helping the city with developing that application. So we're currently also assisting Covert Township with that, and Market One, our team is also available with the administration. We can provide that service as well to administer the funds. It's a lot of work, so if we can take that off of the city staff plate, that's what we want to do, so city staff can focus on their day-to-day role and what they do, and we can take the responsibility for that. So I'm happy to hear that, Kate.
Very good.
And I know also that you got the APA Brownfield Assessment Grant, so we are marketing that as well for properties that are eligible for that grant. We're assisting in the marketing of that too, so everyone can use that. And yeah. One of the things that I did want to talk about is our new approach for grant support services. I know that in the past, Market One has been marrying funding to the projects that are here in the city. I find that that approach has not been very helpful at times. I think that the biggest issue that many cities, municipalities, townships, whatnot, what they find is that they just don't have the staff capacity. Yes, you can come up to them, to all city staff, and tell them, hey, this program's available, but sometimes they just don't have the time to apply for these fundings, and they don't have the time to administer the funds that they may potentially receive. So what we want to do moving forward is not only identifying the programs that work for your projects, but also writing the grant applications and administering the grant applications on your behalf. And I hope that that will have a little bit more of a greater impact in the city and the surrounding area. So with that, I will hand that off to Katie for her business development.
Can I ask a quick question?
Please.
When developers are looking for land, how many acres? Are there parcels that are just too small?
In the city, yes. I know that there's some available upstairs of businesses in the downtown area, but they're looking more so for housing development with potentially 35 units, things that are a little larger, and
Okay.
so we don't have that in the city itself.
Right.
So that's why we're looking outside of city limits. So it will support the residents and staff that are working in the community. They can commute into the city, but yeah, there's just, it's very limited what we have here available in the city, unfortunately. But we
Right.
still want to support the staff, the people that are working here that need that affordable housing.
Right, thank you. Oh, Joe?
Yeah, I got a question. A couple weeks ago, I heard a presentation, I told Kate, from Habitat for Humanity, not Habitat that tried to develop Overton. And what they said was they're focusing on several counties, but they want to focus in particular on South Haven and South Haven Township. And they're willing to build homes with, don't quote me, but as I understood it, near free labor in some cases and materials that they can get at a lower cost. Bottom line is they can build homes very inexpensively compared to a typical builder. And they used Holland, where now Habitat's not just building one home at a time, they're building 30, 40, 50 homes at a time. So they are interested in coming to us, and this may be a little bit of a question for Kate. Why don't you, Kate's busy running the city, why don't you, your economic development, go after Habitat? They want to talk to you. I got the woman's name. I called her, said someone's going to get a hold of her. Call them, sit down and put a plan. The day of trying to get 1 and 2 homes is over. We need a whole lot of homes in this town and township. Why can't we think big? We got a lot of smart people in this town. Let's tap into the people in this town. Let's tap into the community college who can do training. Why can't we build a lot of homes and use Habitat as also a resource? Put it all together. That's your job, to put all the pieces together. And I remember about 10 years ago, 60 Minutes had a thing called the Golden Triangle down south, where they took a horrible area, and I forget the name of the town, but there were no jobs, and the city manager said, we'll be successful if we can hire 2 new people in the movie theater. That was his goal. This other gentleman came in, his name happened to be Joe something, I don't remember off the top of my head, but he came in and he thought big. He went after companies. Then he got the community college to agree to work with the companies to give them the training. So now they had a niche. They had a community college that would literally train them for specific jobs. At the same time, then he went after housing, and he put it all together. Wouldn't you say that's what we need here? Plus, we're lucky we have Habitat on top of everything else.
I think that's great, and that's a great point. It's funny that you say that because I am currently working with Dave Rosbin. I would love to get the woman's name that you speak of, but Dave Rosbin is my point of contact for Habitat, and those are opportunities that I'm talking to him about currently for the city. But the biggest challenge that I'm finding for the city is finding properties, finding parcels to put in these homes. And that's something that we're trying to tackle by looking outside of city limits, by working with Covert Township and South Haven Township. But that is definitely.
But we all know that. We all know the township is where the land is. That's not a secret. And if you talk to Ross, the township superintendent, supervisor, he would be glad to show you properties that could be available.
And I'm working with him as well.
I just think we need to get moving. I think
Yeah.
we need to get some people together to put all the moving pieces together and start this thing. Because we keep, and I think Bishop Wilkins' frustration, I talked to him earlier today, is that it just feels like the wheel keeps turning, but nothing's happening. And I'm not for 1 second saying this is easy. It is very, very hard to make it happen. But our population, our year-round population keeps dropping every year. We got to do something.
And that's what I'm here for. Like I said, 4 months. It's been about 4 months, so we're tackling this hard. Don't think for 1 minute that we're sitting waiting ducks. This is definitely a huge issue that I'm aware of and that I am putting as a priority, not only for the city but for other communities as well. And I am in conversation with Dave Rosman for not only the city, other communities as well. So,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
yeah.
Mary?
Just for synergies, so I know from my involvement with the Area G housing for the state, different areas, not here, I know we're looking at it, but so we have our Van Buren ISD and trying to figure out how students can go from the Van Buren ISD upon graduation to get a more a higher degree or complementary degree through Lake Michigan College.
Okay.
And I know that it's happening in Kalamazoo and I believe in Benton Harbor. So there are already templates out there. And I know Jeremy has it on his to-do list, Jeremy Burleson with our local Lake Michigan College. But those are things that you might want to look at because I think one of the biggest impediments is workforce. I mean, the workers to do the construction. And that would be a way to help our graduates become more employed with more skills. And it's already out there. We don't have to invent the wheel, and I can easily connect you with some names for that.
I would love that.
Thank you.
You.
Part 2 of the Katie Show.
That's right.
Yes, Katie squared. So we go KV, KT, so, internally. But. All right, Katie Moltoff, Economic Development Manager. As your EDM, I serve the primary business community, and you can look at a primary business as a business that makes a service or good and sells it outside of the community but brings it back in locally as form as taxes and wages. So it's been an exciting year this year. We've made some momentum. We've had some announcements, and the momentum is continuing. So this last year, again, our fiscal year is from July until June. So this past fiscal year was a little unique with the economic climate, with the election and now the tariffs this year. A lot of uncertainty, but we saw people starting to move forward because they just have no other options. We have businesses looking forward to new continued incentives, hopefully coming out in the next quarter. So we have a lot of good momentum and traction moving here in the city of South Haven. Just this year alone, I had 27 visits here locally in the city, and I also provided 3 letters of support for applications, whether it be through MDARD or the Industry 4.0 grants. And what these businesses or what these site visits mean, okay? It's a business retention expansion visit. What does that mean? We want our businesses to stay and grow here in the city of South Haven. So that is removing any kind of barrier, any kind of pain point, learning more about their business, their growth plans. Maybe it's over the course of 5 years. Drawing in our partners' incentives, programs based on that dialogue, of course, including the city of South Haven. Michael and I work very close together, and I also help coordinate site tours here locally. Just last week, we had the MEDC here at a business. Next week, we have MDARD. And it's just, again, the partnership, there's so many moving parts to economic development. So your partnership with this is everything for us. Next slide. All right, so project announcement, we actually, in the last 2 fiscal years, Spencer has had 2 project announcements. When I first started, I've been with Market One for just 2 years. I passed in April. But when I joined in April of 2023, I had 3 expansion projects put on my plate, and Spencer was one of them. And this was their second project. I was able to walk alongside them. I offered a letter of support to the Michigan Strategic Fund, which is where the Industry 4.0 bucket of money comes from. And they were awarded $25,000 for their new ERP system, which is going to allow them to be way more efficient from communication, inventory. It's also going to allow them to manufacture 10 more trucks a year. Next slide, please. Start talking about it because I know what it is. But the next one is an MDART announcement, and that is for Lynn Mulder Properties. It's Sandy Creek Farms. They are the second, I believe, possibly third USDA, I want to make sure I say this correctly, USDA certified multi-animal processing facility. The only other one is in Lansing. So that is a big little toot we have in our horn for Southwest Michigan. I was very excited and happy about that. I provided the letter of support for that. It was, they maxed out on the amount that they could receive, which was $100K, and they created 8 jobs here locally. And I think the capital investment actually is going up a little bit more. Their project, of course, with raw materials, it might be more towards the $1 million mark, but we'll see once it's completed. Next slide, please. All right, and so looking into the future, we are not done. We have a pipeline of projects that are just kind of, again, waiting with a little bit of uncertainty. Can they get approved for funding, incentives? So again, 102 jobs is what the pipeline is for, and then 307 retained, wage impact, 14.7. And how we get the wage impact too is we do the average median wage times the jobs created and retained. So just a little insight there. And then we take that, add the capital investment, and that gets us our economic impact. So that's how we kind of figure out the pipeline numbers too. Next slide.
So the jobs created was for your fiscal year?
This one's going to be, that last slide is for the future. So that's what we have in the pipeline, which I have it kind of spelled out a little bit more here by project. So how we do it here at Market One is we kind of do like a fun like alias name. There is an NDA in place here, so we always just make a fun name for the project. But yeah, so right here we have 4 projects here locally, and 2 right now we have letters of support for out. And yeah, so we're, again, excited. 4 projects in the pipeline here for the city. Next slide, please, Kate. Okay. All right. So some of the things that we have done in the past, and again, this is just, it shows the value of what we bring as a partnership with the city of South Haven, because without you guys, we couldn't do the work that we do. And we have a lot of local partnerships. We are always attending local events here, being involved in the community. And what we're looking for is it was almost the end of our last fiscal year. We did a HRC event with the partnership of the chamber here locally, and we had over 50 in attendance, and we are looking to do a second cohort session, whatever the businesses are asking for. So we do these events because the businesses are coming to us and saying we need this. And there was a lot of uncertainty with all the changes for small business with Earned Sick Time Act and the minimum wage and tips, and there was a lot of people uncertain on if they were going to be able to stay in business and what this meant for them. So we are here to come in as the subject matter experts, or if we don't know it all, we'll invite a partner that does, like HRC, and they come in and they educate the businesses on what these changes, what this new legislation means for them. Next slide, please. Okay, so yeah, I guess I jumped a little ahead, but yes, so we're looking to probably in the fall, once summer, winds down a little bit, to do a second session here locally in South Haven in partnership with the chamber. We also have been doing a lot of FTZ talk, foreign trade zone talk. So again, it's just what the businesses want and ask and need of us, and that might even change come fall. So we are the chameleons and we'll do whatever they ask. So, and then we also are a speaker at Debbie Howe's event in August too. We're speaking on the revolving loan fund because Market One manages the revolving loan fund for the county. So we will be speaking on that as an additional gap financing offering. So I think that may be it. Do you have any questions for me on business development?
Any questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Is there a motion to approve the one-year agreement with Market One?
I make a motion to approve the proposed agreement for supplementary economic development services in the amount of $12,736.45 for fiscal year 2025-26.
I'll second.
Any more discussion?
I do. With everything they're doing for us, and this being slightly less than what we paid them last year, is there an opportunity for them to come back to us if their budget would benefit and the services to us would benefit with more in the future? I mean, how set is this for the fiscal year?
Well, these are the 2024 numbers that I was provided by Zach. I'm not sure when they're going to be updating those, if they have to look to the equalization director at Van Buren County, but this is the numbers that I have from Zach. So,
But if it appears that the value should be higher, can he come back for an amendment?
possibly. It's whatever council would like to do.
So that door's open, because I know, it sounds like they've been doing a lot for us, and I know that, looking back over the past year, helping out with the Downtown Development Authority, requesting the funds for the Huron Street Pavilion at Dykeman, things like that, so.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? The motion passes. Next, the city council will receive an update on the Overton development from the dwelling place. Great to have you back.
Good evening. My name is Jacob Horner. I'm the head of real estate for Dwelling Place. I'm here with my colleague Matt Sheminski, who's the project manager. Have some updates to provide with you today. The last time that we were here, we were talking about the development and moving it forward and kind of what our path was. And we were attempting to get everything ready for an October 1 application. Unfortunately, it looks like we're not going to be able to make it for October. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I share the frustration that some folks have with not seeing this move forward as quickly as everybody would like to see it. However, we do have to be deliberative in our approach and just make sure that we have everything on good footing. There's two things that have presented themselves that kind of make that October 1 infeasible, or at least it would be very much a stretch for us to make it in by that point. One of which is we're working with a civil engineer to put together a site plan, and we've noticed that basically we're trying to drain all of the site towards Indiana. And so the issue that creates is that along the bike path, the elevation is quite a bit lower, and so we'd have to bring in, not only would we have to take out a bunch of the contaminated fill, but we'd have to bring in a lot more fill in order to build that area up so that it drains properly. And so that would cost quite a bit more than what we had anticipated for that. There's a solution to that, and essentially we're going to rework the site plan a little bit and probably leave some of that area fallow, probably build a few less homes, but it would provide a better site that would be able to manage a lot of its own stormwater on site, so there'd be less impact on the city storm drains. So we think overall that'll be better, but it's going to take us some time to redo the site plan and kind of get that ready. How that plays into our development process, one of the things that I think is unique about Dwelling Places, we have a very robust community engagement process. And so we, before we do any type of development where we're going in and applying for funding, we want to meet with all the neighbors and hear concerns and get their input. And so we're going to go and send out mailings to everybody within a quarter-mile radius. We're going to have several different public meetings. We're going to invite people from the public to come in, give them some things to look at, and then get their feedback. We can't really do that process until we have a site plan. And so because we have to redo the site plan, we'd not be able to complete that engagement process before October 1. The other thing that we've been doing a lot of work on is the environmental work, of course. And so that is something that there's been a lot of work that's been done on site, but we have to have our own set of engineers do that work. And they've dug into a lot of the reports that have been done. One of the things that they found is that there's not enough testing that's been done in some of the areas to really pinpoint where the contamination is. So they have to do quite a bit more work to what's called characterize the site, which essentially is to create maps of where the contamination is. We have some of that from the previous engineer, but that's based off of some older reports. There's more testing that's being needed, and that's what we have currently isn't going to pass muster with MSHDA until we do this additional testing to really pinpoint, okay, this is the area where we need to take out soil, this area is okay. And so because of that, we just have to do more work, and we don't want to put the cart before the horse. We don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. And that's just not us, it's also our board. You know, they want us to be deliberative and make sure that we have a viable development before we really start moving that process too much forward. So as I said, the net result of that, MSHDA has 2 funding rounds per year. One is in October, the other one's in April. So we will be getting everything ready for an application next April. Now, the good news is that we're still on track in terms of the development agreement and the option agreement. That still allows us to complete the project under the timeframes that are in the original agreement. So we're not asking for any changes to any agreements. We're just providing this update to let you know, because I know in the previous public meetings we had talked about gearing up for that October application. It was always going to be, kind of a sprint to get there, but some of the things that we've encountered along the way have kind of given us a little bit of pause in terms of, okay, we really got to figure this part out before we can push the gas pedal down. So that's kind of the long and short of it. I don't know if there's any questions. Yeah, please.
Yeah, let's go back to the contamination. For residents, for me, this is getting really confusing. We had Eagle and some other experts come in and said, I believe, that the soil is not the worst we've ever seen and we should be able to go forward. Is that fair to say, Kate, on that presentation?
Yes, from that meeting with the MEDC and Eagle, yes, based on the reports that Doug had seen.
So here we have Eagle, the experts, saying we can go forward. You initially said, you looked at it, I believe you said you can go forward. So here we are, months later, and now we need more testing. I'm not disagreeing with it, I just don't understand it. I don't understand how every time we take 2 steps forward, it feels like we're taking 1, maybe even 2 steps backward, and we're just not moving forward. And all of us in this room have memories of how Habitat we thought was going to get the job done, and it kept going and going and going, and then suddenly they pull out. So it is a concern I have, and I think I share it with a lot of people. What's going on with the contamination? Can you give it to us in layman's terms? Why we have experts saying it's okay, and then you thought it was okay, and now more testing? I don't understand it.
Yeah, and I'm a layman too. I'm not a scientist, so I'm probably not going to explain it appropriately. But the way that I understand it is that MSHDA, when MSHDA received the initial application from Habitat, they gave a no-go on this site. Typically, what they do is they give a conditional go from an environmental standpoint that says you need to do these 5 things, and then we'll give you funding. A no-go means we're not going to allow you to apply because there's too many issues going on here. And so I'm not sure the conversation that was had with MEDC and Eagle, I think we need to follow up on that, and I'll work with Kate. I know one of the issues is that the city hired Fishbeck as their engineer, and we can't also hire Fishbeck. Fishbeck is working for the city, and so we have to have our own engineer. But part of that is, when Habitat sent that deal into MISTA, MISTA did not have enough information to allow them to go forward. And so we need to make sure that when this application goes into MISTA, that they're going to accept it, that they're going to allow us to move forward. And so there's a lot of work that we need to do with our engineer and theirs directly to resolve those issues. That has not been done yet. They've told us that they need to do additional testing work. I can't speak to what MEDC and Eagle said in that meeting, but I will try to find out more information on that to try to reconcile between people saying that it's clean and people saying that it's not. I'm just going off of what our scientists and experts are telling us when they look at all the reports that have been done, and they say, well, you know, we need to test for this chemical and that chemical, and we didn't test over here and not over there. So maybe what will be helpful is we can provide more information from them that's more technical in nature that at least kind of lays out and answers that question. But I can't really attest to a conversation that I wasn't part of, but I do know that we're continuing to look at it and we're continuing to refine what that is. I don't really have a better explanation for that. I'm sorry.
So
But
then let me ask you the $64,000 question.
Sure.
With all this rhetoric and all these discussions, do you think, standing there, you work for the company, you talk to everyone, will this project start on time, as you just said a couple of minutes ago? And do you think you can do this project? Or is the project right now, from your company's standpoint, in question?
I do think that we can do it. It is possible. I've seen sites that are more contaminated than this make it through. There's work that needs to be done, and that's work that needs to be done before we can even apply in a competitive process. So I can't guarantee that we're going to be successful, unfortunately. But I can guarantee you that we think this is a viable site. We think it's a great site. It's a great location. The community needs it. And we've got a great team put together. If anybody can get it done, we can. That's not to say that that's a guarantee, though. So I know I'm going to be a little wishy-washy there, but I'm just trying to be truthful with you that I can't guarantee a certain outcome, but I can guarantee we're going to work our tails off to make it happen.
Yes, so I want to support you, and I am going to support you. So you are absolutely right that MISTA turned down the previous application because insufficient environmental data was provided, meaning it was outdated. It was from 2015. What I do know is that we now have data from 2023. And my recollection from the meeting with Eagle and MEDC is that they said, depending on how the layout of the new plan was relative to habitats, there may need to be some additional testing because it just depends on where you would have exposure. And so your comments make absolute sense to me, and I was thrilled to hear them because it shows you're doing your diligence, for which I thank you. Because your plan is not exactly like Habitat's. You have a lot more open space, for which I thank you. And so it's a breath of fresh air. And what I can say is everything I've heard about Dwelling Place is just phenomenal. And I was very pleased to see your application for this site. I'm very pleased to have the 2023 data, which helps you better understand what was going on. I think that was the biggest problem with the previous application. And in fact, our environmental consultant had told staff in 21 that updated environmental data should have been obtained, but it was not. My question, when you say older reports, is that from 2015, or are you looking at the 2023 data, which?
We're looking at the more current data.
Okay.
But I think there's even within that, there's some additional testing that needs to be done.
Correct, and that's
based off of the new plan.
Correct, and it's not that it's not developable, it's that exactly how you said. You need to identify with where you will have impervious exposure where people would be exposed to the property, what needs to be done in there, because it was probably covered in the habitat plan, so they would not have exposure. And that's why there's the additional testing. It's just the layout is different, so the potential exposure is different. It's not that it cannot be developed. It's that they're doing their diligence to say, we need to look at this more so that we know it will be remediated properly. That's how I've interpreted your presentation, and thank you.
And just a reminder that the existing trail side where Dan Agnello lives is contaminated. Go ahead.
When you do the contamination mapping or whatever you call it, is there an opportunity to provide that to the city and residents to look at the results, or will we have to wait for a certain time, or will that not be really pertinent to us or the public?
I see no reason we can't provide that to the public.
Okay.
That should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
George.
I want to thank you for being here and thank you for the update. My philosophy is this housing is going to be in place for a long period of time, and I want to make sure it gets done right. Your explanation to me satisfies me that you are making the right decisions and taking the time you need to make sure that everything is done right. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just related, so it sounds like the housing unit might be the housing outlay might be slightly different, or the number of units, and that will all come forward with the site plan.
It will be slightly different, and when we present that to the community for the engagement, we'll also provide that to city staff, so you'll have a copy of that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate the information.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Next, the City Council will be asked to receive an update from Interim Police Chief Adam DeBoer.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I got a little hitch in my giddy up tonight, but I'm here anyways. We're going to just start off with the numbers. Again, these are my least favorite part, probably the most boring part for me to give. I did notice in my slides I do have a typo in the next one. But so the June dispatch calls, we had 387 calls for service for the city, 119 traffic stops. This month, you can see I did add the increase from last month as well. So we were 111 up from last month. Township calls were up 27. And you can see our annual totals there as well. That's combined. So we've had 2,451 calls for service and just over 900 traffic stops in our jurisdiction.
Sorry.
Nope, you're good. So the next one is our, it's going to say May SHPD stats, but it's June. We've taken 235 report numbers in June, which is up 47. We had 34 arrests, 32 misdemeanors, 2 felonies. The number that kind of jumped out to me there is the 7 drunk driving arrests. The higher that number gets, means to me the more our night guys are out looking for it. It's one thing that kind of jumped out at me there. So there were also some other driving offenses in there, some retail frauds. There was a really good home invasion case in the county that our night shifts handled as well. So most of the arrests that you see there are self-initiated. Again, those are arrests that our guys on patrol took the initiative, made a traffic stop, saw someone with a warrant. It wasn't something they were necessarily called to or sent to by dispatch. Another number that jumped out at me this month or last month in June was 90 property checks. So property check can be an officer doing foot patrol downtown, checking on businesses. It could be they walked through a park. I know a lot of our night guys will log their park locking as foot patrol, which generates a property check number 2. So pretty impressed with that number. 63 citations were written, which is up 26 from May. Again, these numbers are going to go up. Town's getting busier. Our guys are out there doing what needs to be done. The next is going to be our training slide. We had Officer Richmond, one of our younger officers, attended a 3-day car seat training where they taught him how to install car seats. We're looking forward to working with Pam Ford at Safe Kids of Greater South Haven, getting him involved in setting up car seats for those who need help setting up car seats and giving away car seats. I attended the MACP, the Michigan Association Chiefs of Police Conference, in early June. It was a 3-day conference up in Bel Air where I got to meet other police chiefs, really learn from my cohort. Our CPE training, we finished our second quarter. The things that we worked on there are listed. Part of it is our law enforcement, our autism awareness for law enforcement. We did some emotional intelligence training on how sleep affects our health. And we also did a refresher on the Fourth Amendment, which is the search and seizure amendment. July 3rd, I know last councilman, you guys talked quite a bit about it. This is my opportunity to thank the people that helped make that a successful night for us. So all the city departments, it was literally everybody. Kim Wise, the Human Resource Director, was running pizzas around for me that night to our different command posts. So it's literally all hands on deck for the city. We also had help from the Michigan State Police, from the Van Buren County Sheriff's Office, from the Van Buren County Reserves. They do all of our traffic control, and they have it down. They gave us a list of stuff, and when they give us a list of stuff, we say yes. Culver Township Police, Marine Patrol, United States Coast Guard Auxiliary, and the Pokagon Tribal Police. You probably, if you were on South Beach, you saw their big fifth wheel down there. Gave our guys on South Beach a little reprieve from the heat. We took 18 complaint numbers that day. We had 1 arrest and OWI arrest, and we had 1 water rescue. So Lucas Kean and his shift, Silvario Miranda and Josh Lee entered the water in the Black River and dragged a kayaker to shore. While all of that was going on, Officer Carnes was dealing with a fight at Captain Lou's. So great shift teamwork by that shift. SWAT activity. There was a tip generated by one of our road patrol officers that ended up in a search warrant just in DeCasco Township. They found 112 grams of methamphetamine, approximately 4 ounces. 65-year-old male was arrested for possession with intent to deliver methamphetamine and maintaining a drug house. Those charges are going to go up into Allegan County. However, before that event kicked off, there was an arrest down here that involved a female from the city of South Haven with multiple felony warrants. So multiple agencies participate in that. The Southwest Enforcement Team, Allegan County, their North Team, along with the Allegan County Sheriff's Office and us. So right now we have a detective in Sweat, and that was kind of his case to run. So good work by Sweat. We took part with Walmart. They were doing a fundraising campaign for Children's Miracle Network. So we had a couple officers out there with our police car and our side-by-side, just connecting with community members as they were coming out. People could make a donation to Children's Miracle Network there if they wanted. We reached kids, and even a couple of older adults were very excited to have a seat in a patrol car. I think they were happy to have a seat in the front seat of a patrol car and not the back seat of a patrol car. But it was just a great way for us to get out and connect with the community. Cone with a Cop. I had some trouble downloading the pictures, but if you click that link there, I think it may take us there, Kate, to all the pictures that McDonald's uploaded. We partnered with Safe Kids of Greater South Haven. They provided bike helmets that we could hand out. They handed out and fit. There's a whole fit sheet, so the officers on scene there had to go through the fit sheet. They handed out 38 bike helmets. I did not get a total number on how many ice cream cones they ate, but it was a good event, and it was a good way for us to partner with the Safe Kids of Greater South Haven. So there you go. There's a whole page of pictures. And that's all I have, unless there's questions.
Any questions? Go ahead.
I just wanted to bring up one of the earlier comments that someone made about speeding on Monroe, and I know we've had issues I think on like Elkenberg and Indiana in the past, and also Phoenix. Are you guys kind of looking to
Yeah, so
check those areas?
Officer Keen's actually here when he heard those comments. He said they've actually written a lot of the quote-unquote cruisers, the big trucks that make all the noise, several tickets. They're out there. We know generally who the troublemakers are, and I don't want to say they do it with glee, but when given a chance, they are happy to take enforcement action.
Mary?
Yeah, so you said for noise, tickets were written for noise?
Noise, speed, I know, I think some were squealing tires in the parking lot at South Beach.
Okay, because I do know Phoenix Road gets a lot of noise issues. That's what I'm hearing from residents. I know North Shore Drive and Monroe Boulevard tend to get them because they're straight shots with no stop signs.
Yep.
And then for Kids Corner, Blue Stairs area, it's my understanding we're on our third crosswalk sign because the previous two were taken out, destroyed by cars. And that the South Haven Street Chestnut intersection is just waiting for something bad to happen. People will go by, see a parking space, back into Chestnut, do a three-point turn, and they don't pay attention to the crosswalks. And there was one instance recently where someone sat in the crosswalk for probably 10 minutes waiting for a parking space, and people had to walk into the road to get past them. So what can be done to try and make that area safer with the children coming and going? And I do know, I had asked Dana Bird this about using the large yellow signs in that crosswalk at Chestnut and South Haven Street, and he said they didn't meet the criteria. In talking with a resident there, it sounds like actually the city tried to put one in there, but it's too big, so cars couldn't even navigate because the intersection's narrow. So what can we do to make that area safer when it's a very narrow street and people just don't abide by the law?
It's a great question. The speed thing, we can do some stuff about. Crosswalk stuff, I would have to get with Dana and figure that out. We have one speed trailer right now. I'm still kind of learning some things about it. It looks like there's a way that we can put that trailer out and get some information back, like, is speeding actually going on? Is it not going on? What are the average speeds? What's the fastest? What's the slowest? That trailer is currently out on 16th Avenue because Township was having some complaints. I've got an email out to our guy that kind of sets it up to find out what information we can actually get back off of that. So that's an option that we've had it for a few years now that kind of gets pushed around the city. I've reached out to Douglas Police Department just north of us. I talked with their chief last week. They use a couple of the mobile signs, speed limit signs, that you can put around and they just flash your speed. It sounds like there is some rudimentary data that those collect as well that we can use. And then it's just our guys are out there, but it may be surprising to some, but when the police car's there, those things don't happen.
Right. And
So we're not going to catch everybody, but we catch as many as we can.
well, and the data may help identify if there's peak times where it's more prevalent, which would help identify when to try and get an officer there if you have the person following.
Yeah, and again, I would have to look at what data's collected. I don't know if we'll get hourly data or if it's just, okay, your sign was out for a week. Here's the average speed of every car that's gone by, or here's, I think you said you get kind of an average and the fastest and the slowest. Our speed trailer may collect a little more than that.
Okay, and then one other thing I've heard, and I've actually personally experienced it, people being frustrated that you're actually going the speed limit of 30 miles per hour on North Shore Drive, and I hear it happens on Monroe Boulevard, and you get passed on the double yellow.
I would imagine that probably didn't happen in front of one of the South Haven Police Department patrol cars.
Correct. Do you have suggestions on?
I mean, you can, my suggestion would be drive defensively if you're driving to avoid potential accidents with others. Unfortunately, there's very little that a civilian driver can do.
Or I lived in New York, I know how to drive defensively.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, obviously, if you see something happening like that, a call to 911 is always
Yeah, but they're gone.
okay.
That's,
If
yeah,
you,
so-
you get the best vehicle information you can,
Okay.
last known direction of travel, they can put out a BOL.
Okay.
I mean, if you're on North Shore Drive and the car's going south,
Yeah, there's not
it
a lot
could
of-
likely end up at South Beach, where we could have an officer,
You mean North Beach?
North Beach, sorry, where we could have an officer there that could potentially see that car. And it might not be a frustration thing, it might be an intoxicated driver thing. So there's a lot of things that we can be on the lookout for from civilian drivers. So a call to 911, you might not think it's a big deal, and you might not think we might not ever catch them, but we might catch them.
Okay, and I said frustration because it was early morning. I certainly hope it wasn't a drunk driver, but you never know.
You'd be surprised.
No, exactly. Don't assume.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It is now time for public comment. Again, citizens in the audience will be heard on items not on the agenda, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Good evening, Nate Goodwin, 608 Cherry Street. And I'm gonna start since they just left. I'm gonna start with the email I sent to Kate. And one part of it she totally disregarded. I asked her about getting together or constructing some type of Q&A or a meeting with the community and the police force. Because like I said, they don't make me feel safe. I don't see them a lot. They don't check on us. They don't police the urban community. But I guess they don't really care about that. And so it's kind of getting to the point where it's scaring me. I don't like to see them coming because I know they coming on bull because I ain't seen them the whole time. And so, and that's real disheartening for the community I live in if I can't feel safe. And then from that, back to the parking, well, not the parking thing, yeah, it's disheartening to hear about the $34 million. And I've been down there 4 years and applied for numerous grants, been paying the Chamber of Commerce. And I know you got minority funding and all like that. Is the grants just for white people? Do you appreciate the businesses downtown? I see y'all taxing, and y'all tell the vendors y'all appreciate them and all like that. Y'all taxing and ticketing the locals to appease the tourists. Even though I'm not mad at them, I love them. They bring the money here, you know. But the businesses make South Haven go. You won't have nobody to ticket it if everybody leave this mug. All the businesses leave this mug. And I did a little research. Not everybody, because I ain't got to talk to everybody. But nobody is getting ticketed like me. And I ain't saying, one, you told me there's no resolution for the ticket problem. And I'm just talking about business owners. And if you look at like Kalamazoo and stuff like that, for people who own a business and stuff like that, it's a sticker you can put in their window. So they just can't be ticketed. They there all day long. They make money to make the community better. And so, like I say, so I know there's nothing that can happen with my parking situation, and I can see in the wintertime, yes, I can take them free parking areas, but like I say, they always feel full when I get there. You know, so now I got to drive around, and I'm open from 8 to 8. If I get there and I got an appointment at 8 to drive around looking for a parking spot, it's ridiculous. I lose clientele, I lose money, and I still got to pay y'all for all these tickets y'all get. You know, and so, but I'll finish off with that. The police officers, that she didn't even comment on what I asked her about that. And it leaves me at the point, what do we do? You know, I mean, when you don't see them, like I say, we don't see them at all, ever. You see, he talk about y'all fund them. I see y'all say about the training, y'all fund them, all the tax money y'all get to give to, not all of it, but to give to public safety and all like that. I seen them about training. I didn't see nothing about training to how to communicate or deal with urban communities. I don't see none of that. They don't come down there and ask us how to do that. Therefore, that's leaving them not knowing how to do that. So when they approach us and come to us, it's always, I can't think of the word I'm thinking about, but it's always confusion. I don't know what they finna do, and they don't know what we finna do. And them just not knowing what we finna do is just not knowing our language, our body language or stuff like that. But y'all ain't even trying to get them to learn that stuff. And I don't understand, do y'all want us here? That's how the city getting smaller.
You have 1 minute.
Okay, that's how the city getting smaller, because y'all running out all the poor people and black people. You building these big old houses that's $300,000 for who? I like I say, I ain't wrote a whole lot down or searched off what to say, but so it still seems frustration. But I'm gonna get it together and I'm gonna come through and put it down. But that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrea Hooker, 963 Kalamazoo Street. I would like to start by kind of reiterating what Mr. Goodwin was speaking about. I can attest to the situation on January 3rd where it was the day of the fireworks, and we as a community, we like to commune. It's what we do. And there on Fruit Street, we had a lot of us communing. No issues were happening, and the police, it was county, it was state, it was city. They did a assembly line of at least 10 police cars straight up the block, lights blaring, and there were no incidents where they were called or anything, and they just did an assembly line up the block with the lights blaring, and then they got out the car, like 20 of them, walked the block, stood there, and it wasn't until a Caucasian resident who stays on Fruit Street approached them and was like, this is ridiculous. Why are you guys doing this? Nobody's causing a problem of any kind. And it wasn't until that resident kind of made mention to them that they eventually dispersed. And like I said, there was no incidents that night for that would merit them to, do that. So yes, I did want to address that. But on another note, I would like to also make mention that I did have an opportunity to meet with Kate, but before that, I did also send her an email on July 6th, which I still, to this date, did not get a response to either. And but I would like to address the concerns that we spoke about in the meeting. And so I said during our meeting with Ms. Holger, addressed some concerns I had. However, many of the answers left me with more questions than clarity. When I asked why the Elkinberg Park summer recreation programming and operations are being merged with the school system, she stated, in short, because we have so many different programs happening throughout the city, I thought it would be better to centralize them in one location so everyone could have access to like the gym and auditorium and those type of facilities. While I understand the goal of efficiency, this is not a one-size-fits-all situation. The Elkinberg Park program has provided a unique community-rooted experience for local children. Our youth look forward to stepping away from the school environment during the summer. Moving the program into the school removes that sense of freedom and community connection that Elkinberg has long offered. Recreation should be restorative, not restrictive. When I asked about funding for the minority communities, she responded, do we have special fund for the black community? No, it's not just for Elkinberg Park. To that, I respectfully say I did my research, and the fact is the city of South Haven receives federal, state, and private fundings that are intended to support underserved and minority populations, including youth engagement, public health, and community development programs. These are not discretionary funds. They come with an expectation of equity-focused impact. And yes, while these funds may not be allocated solely to Elkinberg Park, it is important to note that Elkinberg Park is the only park in the city that still offers a dedicated summer recreation program for children, and it is also one of the city's largest parks located in a historically black neighborhood. Mrs. Holder also mentioned that one reason for shifting the program to the schools was lack of information. She did not have a clear picture of how many children were attending, their ages.
You have 1 minute.
Or whether they were local. My question is, was this information ever requested? If so, who was it requested from and when? Community members and volunteers involved in the program have always been accessible and willing to share data. Finally, the city manager expressed concerns about safety and the need for background checks and qualifications for people running the program. While I agree that safety is always a priority, I must ask, has children's safety not mattered in all the years prior? Or are these new requirements being introduced now to add a barrier that may disproportionately impact minority-led grassroots programs? This shift feels less like progress and more like a quiet erasure of something meaningful and effective in our community.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Julie Ludwig, 612 Center Street. I just have a few things to say about something I'm concerned, or the possibility of something that I'm concerned about, and that's the recent massive funding increase for ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that some of which will be allocated to state and local law enforcement agencies to encourage cooperation as a force multiplier with ICE. The program for cooperation is labeled 287G and is optional for law enforcement agencies, not mandatory. My hope is that the South Haven Police Department is not considering this partnership. I spoke with a U.S. attorney for West Michigan this week to clarify this is an optional program, not the law. The stated reason for this increase is funding to curb an immigrant-driven increase in crime, when in fact both violent crime and property statistics are lower than 5 years ago. And of the thousands of those already arrested by ICE, 72% have no criminal record. They are guilty of entering the country illegally. And there are judicial blocks to becoming a citizen once you've entered illegally. There's no line to get into to pursue legalization if you came into the country illegally. With that fact, why do they come? They come to support their families, and to do so end up doing jobs that U.S. citizens are generally not doing, farm work in the fields or in factory animal farming, including slaughterhouses, as well as landscaping, housekeeping, construction, and other similar physically grueling work. Many of these industries would be hard put to survive without immigrant labor. Others come to escape violence in the form of gang threats or systemic persecution by repressive governments. So they come for many reasons. As of this year, the Department of Homeland Security has set quotas for its anti-immigrant agenda, 1,000 arrests a day, or more than 1 million per year. Thus, more law enforcement personnel is needed, and the 287G program is one route to increase law enforcement, with the result that there's been a huge escalation by local police and sheriffs in being deputized by ICE to perform federal immigrant arrests. Here's what you may have seen in examples of this implementation. People in black uniforms, often with faces masked, no visible identification, and presenting no judicial warrant, making arrests on the street or stopping a car and breaking windows in order to drag the driver out, showing up at immigrant courts where immigrants complying with immigration court regulations show up for their appointments and are arrested, arresting parents with young children with no provision for what becomes of the children as the parents are hauled away, and most recently arresting and deporting an 82-year-old man who was granted political asylum to the U.S. after surviving torture in Chile. He'd lost his green card, showed up for an appointment to replace it, and instead was arrested and sent to Guatemala, where he has no contacts. His family was given no information about his whereabouts. My federal taxes are paying for this. I have no control over that. I can state my strong objection to having my local taxes pay for a 287 agreement between ICE and a local police department, if that is being considered. And I have no idea at this point whether it is or not. I think it may be tempting to investigate the option of cooperation with ICE. There may be some financial benefits to doing this.
You have 1 minute.
Should our local police department have a 287 agreement, they would not necessarily be responsible for the most horrible actions, but they would be a cog in a very large machine of deportation. I don't want my taxes going to this optional program. Again, I hope our local police force is not considering a 287G agreement, and I'm asking council to advise the police department not to pursue it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Kent, I think you're next.
Kent Sprindley, 345 Bailey. First of all, I want to thank the AAUW for hosting the candidate forum last Tuesday evening. It was very refreshing and very interesting to hear from all of the candidates. I want to thank LMC for allowing the use of their facility that evening. I want to thank all of the candidates who came out that evening, and I would like to thank the standing room only audience who came out to learn a little bit more about those running for city government. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Beck, 879 Monroe Boulevard. I wanted to say how great it was to hear from Dwelling Place. It sounds like we are on the right track and going to do it right this time, and I find that really exciting. I wanted to make a comment about comments, though. I think the comments should be relegated to facts. I don't think it should be trying to read someone's mind or read their motivation. I think we're all one community. We need to work together. People have different opinions, but hopefully we end up at the same place in the end, improving South Haven. And I really resent innuendos about me from people that don't know me. And I think that we should not do that, and we should all work together and be one community. Thank you.
Joe Wilkins, 811 Indiana Street. I am clear on what I think and feel and I've seen have taken place over the last 4 or 5 years when it comes to Overton property. My opening statement was that I believe people that have made those comments may have good intentions on keeping people safe. But again, I want to echo what Joe Reese said. If the professionals are saying this could be done, I'm finding it hard. Help me make sense out of that. Eagle is saying it could be done. But now it looks like we're going back and they're questioning whether or not their opening statement, Dwelling Place opening statement, was correct. It almost seemed like they're going back now. Yeah, we could say they're doing the job, they're crossing the T's, dotting the I's, but to people like myself that's waiting and have been sitting here waiting, it feels like you're going back. Okay? So professionals are saying it can be done. Developers are saying, we got to do this, we got to do more testing, we got to do more testing. 50 feet across the street, private developers are doing whatever they want to do. So yeah, I have problems with it. I'm a little frustrated tonight. I'm usually fair
The
in my
comments are for
I'm usually
items
fair
not
in
on
my
the
comments.
agenda.
I'm usually fair in my comments. I don't get up here and point fingers, so I don't want people to take it the wrong way, okay? I don't want people to take it the wrong way. Let me speak to this. What I heard today from these young two young African-American people that came up tonight is indicative, a perfect example of what a lot of people feel in this area. I sat here and watched a grave gentrification that took place, and these two individuals represent a voice of minorities that's crying out for inclusion and equality. Inclusion and equality. And if we continue to stray away from that, then South Haven is not the place that I thought it would be, or thought it was. So I want to talk to that in a way of, I feel for them, but I encourage them to keep pushing forward, keep coming to these meetings, because too often, people that look like me do not feel comfortable coming down here speaking behind this podium. And so my hat goes off to them. At least they had the nerve to come down, express. Now, why is Elkinburg so important? Over the last couple of years, all we do is get pamphlets for programs to be ran at Elkinburg Park. Let me give you just a little history in just 30 seconds. Elkinburg Park and a scattered area, which people call the zone, was all we had. As African Americans stuck in a polluted, manufactured area where they put us, where they allowed us to stay around all the factories at the time, we got the spill out. We got the pollution. All of a sudden, that land is valuable now. That area was all we had. We were pushed in the corner of the south side, and that's what we had. We had the park, and we had the projects. And we were proud to be in that area and made the best out of it. But now, let me tell you what's going on. They seem like you're trying to snatch the park from us. You're snatching the scattered homes from us. The area did not look the same. And you have young people that's trying to hold on to a piece of what they felt represented our area. They're getting overlooked. So you got programs that's coming into the park area being supported. They have the resources, and you have young African-American people
You have
that
1 minute.
want to hold on to programs and that they feel that represents other little minority kids, and they feel that they have what it takes to best reach those kids, and now they're being totally ignored because they want to keep at least a little bit of what we used to have in that area. You've taken the homes, you've taken the property, and now you want to take the park. You want to take the park? You can clearly resolve the issue with that young man by giving him a sticker to put in his window. Think about that. Inclusion and equality.
Thank you.
Melissa Skinner, 850 Kalamazoo Street. I'm new. I'm coming back. I was here for a long time, had a business here. Just moved back with my granddaughter, and I live next door to Elkinburg Park. So I didn't come up here for this tonight, but I do want to support this because I see the kids over there every day playing. I see mentors that are my age that come there. They're not paid to be there. They're there shooting baskets, waiting on kids to show up. And they mentor those kids. I will say that the middle of the night, I'd love to see a couple more officers pass by because there might be some stuff going on there that shouldn't be going on there. But the day stuff, those programs, I think if those programs were continued to be funded and those kids could be there playing every day and there were involvement and family things going on there every day, I don't think I'd have those nighttime stuff next door to me at all. So I got up here on something I wasn't on because I am passionate about the area. So I'm going to continue reading what Andrea Hooker started. So I'm just going to read the bottom of it. It says, we're not asking for special treatment. We're asking for fair treatment. Our children deserve not just a seat at the table, they deserve a table built with them in mind. At the heart of this issue is something much greater than programming. It's about trust, respect, visibility, and inclusion. So just take that to heart. I urge the city to truly listen and consider the history of this space. I may have been gone for the last decade, but I was here for a long time before that, and I've done a lot of volunteer work and been down there. I just encourage that. I think it's a great space. I took my they just had a church get-together there yesterday and did a fundraiser for the area that I took my grandson to. You know, they had a jumpy house, they had face painting, they had a service. I think people should be included in it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Diane Carlson, 74 South Haven Street. My first complaint is these chairs are horrible. Oh, my God. I do want to follow up on what Interim Chief
DeBoer
said about speeding and a little bit about what Mary said as well. I feel like we need to step outside the box a second and think about what can we do for the speeding, the screeching of tires that go on all the time. Saugatuck doesn't have this problem. St. Joe doesn't have this problem. I don't know why South Haven has it, and we've become a motorcycle haven, and so all this is going on. So I'll start with that and say, back to something I've been saying for a few years. What about speed bumps?
Your comments are for items that have not been on the agenda. And
Okay, I'm going to talk about pedestrian safety, and that includes speed bumps to slow people down around Kids Corner Park, around Monroe Boulevard. It's a very, very dangerous area. I would submit to you that South Haven Street, going towards the Blue Stairs, crossing over Chestnut Street, is one of the busiest streets in South Haven. And I could sit there on my porch and count and give you that number if it would make any difference, and I don't think it will. We've proposed to the city, the whole neighborhood got together and proposed to the city some options to take care of some of the safety problems that we have. I watch daily people getting close to being hit. Kids, little kids that are doing nothing wrong, but the three-point turns that are going on all the time, we can do something about that. And I don't understand why the city doesn't seem to be concerned about pedestrian safety. It's happening every single day. Is a row in front of my house, bumper to bumper, or pedestrians walking to go to the beach. And I hold my breath because we have incidents every single day. So we had a meeting, an on-site meeting with the city engineer and the city manager, and we talked about some different options, and literally it died on the vine. We never got anybody to come back. It's been a year now, and we have some ideas on what we could do for that specific corner. I don't know what needs to happen, or I don't know what we need to do for sure, but there's been a lot of opportunities that have been missing. We can close that street off. We can do one-way. There's different things we can do, and I don't expect a police officer to sit there and watch as those things are happening, but it's happening every single day, and I'm begging somebody here in the city to give two shakes about the safety of the children here, the safety of the pedestrians, not just the tourists, the locals as well. Thank you.
thank you.
Lisa Croupiers, 561 Indiana Avenue. I know that everybody who has gotten up here in the comments that are not on the agenda, they had hard things to talk about. And most of them are residents, all of them were residents. And we are asking for accountability from the city, and clearly not happening. And I'm going to be talking about another tough item. And it, again, as Diane just said, it is about the value of life here. And this is what the value of life. Andrea was talking about that. The value of our community. So the residents are not happy. So our city was all front and center yesterday on the Lansing State Journal and the Detroit Free Press. Front page news about the lifeguard program and the value of lives again. And every time there is a drowning here, I want you to know that our community suffers. Our community is sad and mourns the loss and the responsibility that we have to those families, whether they're tourists or we are asking them to come here and seeing people die. And that is not just the loss to the family and the victim themselves. That is sad for our community. We do not want to go through that. So, yesterday in the paper, there was a very well-written article in both of those papers. You know from my past comments that I support the USLA summary that was presented by Chris Brewster. I thought that was an immaculate piece of work that was very clear what we needed, gave it to us, basically delivered on a silver platter. And we chose to divert and go to hire somebody in Brighton to slow walk this thing. So there were some comments made by our city manager, and she chose to respond in an email, so it's a documented piece of information. It wasn't just conversational where she could say, oh, I was misunderstood. No. She stated, television shows like Baywatch have given us inaccurate impressions of the role lifeguards play. Yes, that's true. But Baywatch, I talked about a television show and I recommended it to everybody on the city council to watch a couple episodes, even just one episode. It was Rescue High Surf. And guess what? That is not a false impression of what lifeguarding is like in open water rescue or open water lifeguarding experience. Rescue High Surf gives an accurate picture of what open water lifeguarding is about. So that was really offensive. Baywatch, really? Baywatch, come on. That was offensive to not only our victims, but to the families and communities of the victims, and it was offensive to us as a community. That was a statement that was made. The next one, it's been suggested the process is simple to restart the program. Buy some sunscreen and a whistle. You've got your lifeguard program. Holy smokes. We do not think that that's how you get a program, and that really reflects poorly on our community. So I just want to let you know how insulted so many of us residents were. I also want to talk about the inappropriate candidate signs. Again, another article was in the paper asking for leadership from the mayor, from the city manager, from our sign ordinance person. We would like leadership for somebody to stand up and please say these signs are unacceptable and do not reflect well on our community. This is shameful that this is left to go on and just continue. Shameful.
Any other comments? If not, we'll move on to city manager's comments.
Thank you, Mayor. A few things of note. We are having a wastewater ribbon cutting for the improvements that we've done at the wastewater plant. That'll be at 625 Dunkley on Tuesday, July 29th at 2 p.m. We will have a small ceremony, and then we will be offering tours up to 4 p.m. If anyone's been if anyone's gone out to Public Works, our driveway is still under construction. We're down to one lane. It could be kind of tough to get in there. If you need to contact Public Works, might want to phone first so you don't have to go through all that. We are also working with Pam Ford of Safe Kids of Greater South Haven to collaborate on a national night out on Tuesday, August 5. Lastly, I did want to make certain that council and the public know that we are having economic development listening sessions to update our I wouldn't say our master plan, our economic development plan. It's from 2020. Obviously, some things are changing. The power plant is looking to reopen. Our first session will be on July 30th in this room here, 5 to 7 p.m. And then we'll have a second section on August 26th from 5 to 7 p.m. Public are encouraged to attend. Those are my comments.
Any questions? Wendy?
I was just wondering about the DHS report that they're working on, and if we can still expect that. I don't remember if it was August or September.
I think it's more in September, October, actually. And yes, we've already had a kickoff meeting with them and met their subject matter experts. Very impressive people.
Thanks.
Mary?
Can you keep us updated on that DHS? Well, I mean, September, October, that's significant, and it has the potential of derailing lifeguards.
Yes, I know that DHS would like to bring their team here for a full-day workshop, so we'll be looking with you all for a Saturday date to meet. So I'll get that date out to you all.
And for the listening session, so who's listening? The city's listening to residents, or the residents will be listening to a presentation?
I'm not sure if Jim's going to have a presentation, but he'll be there. If I get more information from Jim, he couldn't be here tonight, he had a family obligation. But the idea is to listen to what people think that they want to see and hear, and also see what was in the old plan that is now out of date.
And can you link that old plan to the newsroom? Because I don't think it's easily found.
It's on the economic development page.
But can you link it to the newsroom for easy access?
Let's see.
So
it's on our documents on demand. So I'll figure out what we got to do for that.
Okay, because some people find the documents on demand clunky, and if the newsroom is right there with a hyperlink, that would be helpful. From our discussion earlier today, I would ask that you and I and Kelly meet. So the Planning Commission had their public hearing on the master plan, and the City Council, thank you for clarifying by email, has retained the authority for final sign-off. And from the public comments at the meeting, there were no changes. And knowing the thoughts and previous actions by the City Council before it was sent out for public comment, I think for efficiency, it would help to have a few items for the Planning Commission's consideration at the meeting at which it would be doing its resolution, so that there's no surprises, that I could work with you and Kelly on simple wording for minor tweaks to address concerns from residents.
If there are minor tweaks, can you send them to us in an email?
Well, emails get mischaracterized, misunderstood. It's much more efficient to meet in person, so that's what I'm requesting.
I'm slightly concerned that we would be modifying the Planning Commission without direction from the Planning Commission.
No, what we would be doing is coming to the Planning Commission with consideration for some changes. I was asked to provide it on the spot. And this way we can I can get guidance from staff of what you would find acceptable, not acceptable. That's just the more efficient way I see it.
I won't have any time this week, but we'll have to look and see if I have time next week before the meeting. Otherwise, we'll have to just go to the Planning
I
Commission.
think it would be more appropriate for the chair of the Planning Commission to meet with you and Kelly, if anybody does. Thank you.
Well, as the City Council liaison, it's a two-way street, and the City Council member is there to help guide things to a point where the City Council would accept and avoids last-minute amendments, so. And then separately, so from previous City Council meetings, I had 3 questions that you were going to follow up on, and, clarification on when parking tickets would be issued, the status of the rec director hiring, and the 412 Phoenix Street sign. I believe the next date is still June 27th. And from what I've heard from residents, they are very interested. The 120 baseline is coming up for a public hearing, And one question that was outstanding from the June 2nd meeting that you set up was what exactly can be ingress egress off of Webster, considering it's, Webster is a very minor street, not well, it's just not as sturdy. I can't think, the one baseline is a much stronger artery, harder surface, curbs, gutters, don't have that on Webster. We heard at the meeting on June 2nd about problems with Webster. So that would be very beneficial to be included with any rezoning. And also the FOIA requests that residents are waiting for. The estimated due date was July 5th. Status inquiry has gone unanswered. It would be very transparent to have those results before that hearing date, because residents are waiting for that. And I had also heard about a Monroe Park sewer overflow. Do you know?
I asked Public Works, and they had no knowledge of a sanitary sewer overflow from the other ones we've had from last, was it 2 years ago?
I think last year, but okay. Thank you.
The rec director position is still posted on the school's website. Okay, anybody else? Joe?
Yes, can I ask Kate a question?
Yeah.
As you know, Kate, and this also applies to you, Mayor, people are very upset about these signs. Most people, including me, have never heard of a political sign being put in yards to tell people not to vote for someone and go so far as to call that person a bully. That's not what democracy is about. I've never heard of a campaign that does such a thing. I've talked to you, and I think you've said legally you're leaving this alone.
That's exactly right. I have no jurisdiction here.
So,
what we
here-
can do is find out what size, how big it is, where it can be placed, and the number of signs that may be in a yard. And quite frankly, it doesn't matter what it says. I can't say anything about it. Now, I have heard lots of people say, oh, I think these violate campaign signs. That does need to go through the Bureau of Elections. They are the only ones who can talk about the validity or the legality of campaign signs.
And I understand that. But here's where I'm going with this. As a leader in the city, as a mayor, as a leader in this city, people are looking towards both of you to take a position, at least we want to hear your opinion on something that's so abusive, the wording, and so negative that tourists are talking about it, residents are talking about it. And my opinion as a city council person is at minimum, I'm asking you, could you and the mayor at least give the public your opinion? Are you supportive of it? Are you disappointed with it? That's what we're looking for. That's what a leader does. They tell people their opinion on important issues.
So Joe, in the 10 years that I've worked here, and I've said this to you many times, is what do I not do? I do not give you my opinion. Now, I'm going to tell you one right now. I think everyone could be more civil. It takes a lot of guts to come up here and talk in the microphone and give you all your opinion. Everyone can be more civil. Everyone can be more civil. Every single person can be. That's called giving grace. That's called giving compassion. And quite honestly, giving a person a break and giving them the benefit of the doubt. And I think everyone should be asking for that, because you all are sitting up here giving your time yet another 3-hour meeting. And I know some of you want to go home. Some of you might not even have been home. And yes, we can all have a little bit more grace and maybe understand that some people are coming here and saying one thing, but that may not have been the discussion we have had before. So quite frankly, I've gotten a lot of comments tonight, and some of them I don't agree with, but then again, I'm not telling you my opinion, but I can say that we can all be more civil. Every single person can be more civil.
And Councilmember Reeser, I would say that Kate's lack of comment on the signs on their substance is at the advice of council, because our office has advised the city manager's office to not comment on political issues, to not comment on the substance of signs, because we don't want to be perceived as engaging in content-based discrimination. Even absent some specific enforcement action, we do not want to be perceived as bringing the weight of the government down to try to facilitate a certain message. This is politics. And in doing our best, Kate and I doing our best to protect the city, that is the reason for the silence on the issue. Sure, Kate and I have lots of opinions on lots of things, but we don't share them when it would be inappropriate. And Kate's lack of response, as some may categorize it, is simply following advice from our office.
And I appreciate knowing that, because I didn't know that.
Absolutely.
before you were saying it.
Okay, moving on to mayor and council persons' comments. Letitia.
First, I just want to say thank you all for coming out tonight and giving your comments and all your opinions. I had some other things to say, but I'm going to be really quick because the time is late. But I wanted to give a kudos to Andrea Hooker, who is doing an excellent job at the park. It just took me back to my childhood of growing up at the park, and in fact, that was the only time that I could go to the park was when there was the rec program. So I don't know what is the vision for it in the future, but I certainly hope that Miss Hooker will be a part of that, because she is drawing the children. They're having a good time. She has great activities. She reminds me so much of the late Mrs. Mosley, and so I hope that, or we consider having her there in the future. Those are my comments.
Thank you. George?
I was going to bring this up last meeting, but I neglected to. But I want to compliment city staff on the great job on the city's flower beds and gardens. I go around, and I was just at the Packard Park today. There's two really pretty planters in front of the bathroom there at Planter Park. And so I just want to compliment city staff on those things. That's it.
Thank you. Joe?
I know the lifeguard program is somewhat controversial, and there's both sides to this. I've said it from the day I first knew about the lifeguard program possibly happening, that I am supportive of it for all the reasons many of you have already voiced. But when I read Detroit Free Press, and I'm quoting it, "Lake Michigan is America's deadliest lake, yet lifeguards are nowhere to be found." My hope is that this has an impact on residents and city council and city staff, that it puts more of a sense of urgency than before, because I'm almost speechless when I hear that it's the deadliest lake and we're being called out as a town, as many towns, that we don't have lifeguards. And I sure hope we take this to heart and get something done sooner than later. Thanks.
Mary?
Yes, so 2 free events for children this coming weekend, July 26th, Mitten Play Palooza at Riverfront Park, and Super Soaker at Elkenberg. So thank you, Andrea, for scheduling that. And I do want to give Andrea kudos. I met with her on Friday, talking about some trials and tribulations of starting a 501c3. So I'm just very pleased with what she's doing. Van Buren Forward is a new nonprofit 501c4 chapter dedicated to engaging residents and education on civic duty. So I think that's very appropriate for right now. And they're having a grand opening on August 3rd, 12 p.m. at the First Congregation Church at 651 Phoenix, and all are welcome. Surf Internet is coming to the north side, and I need to touch on civility also. I was flattered with some of the comments on Facebook that I was able to shut down a development. I have to thank staff and the county soil erosion for responding to residents' concerns, not just mine, but residents in the area. when clear cutting went. And I had thanked Kate for setting up a meeting for that. But what people do not know is that there were 2 violations issued by the county, soil erosion, and that the stop work order was because of violations of the South Haven zoning ordinance, specifically section 2501, sub 1 and 10. So I welcome development, and I expect it to be done respectfully and within the local, county, and state laws. And from the event on the meeting that Kate graciously scheduled, she explained how she and her staff rely on residents who are immediately adjacent and in the general vicinity or pass by different construction sites and see something and please report it. So she welcomes those communications because it helps make sure everyone's following the same laws and the same laws are being applied equally. And with the violations that were issued, it does validate the concerns. And in light of the need for our residents to have to report these out of civility, it would be nice if those who are reporting valid concerns are not villainized. And as Kate said, everyone could be more civil, and that is especially true when people are reporting valid concerns. The divisiveness that it causes in the community is unacceptable. I would ask everyone to appreciate the efforts of people trying to ensure that everyone and our land and our laws are respected. And I want to thank Kathy Straits and Linda Warshawski for their letters to the editor. They're much appreciated.
Wendy?
Okay. I guess I just wanted to say, I think we had some really powerful comments from a few of our residents that I hope that we up here and as a community can take to heart. I think we can do better, and I hope that our police department hears the calls for more inclusion and interaction, especially in our historically Black neighborhoods. I think that's really important to build that trust and make sure we have a positive relationship. And then also the comments about keeping our immigrant community safe is really important right now. Yeah, I guess I don't have the words to really express how I feel hearing from Nate and Andrea and then Bishop Wilkins about the topics that they spoke on, but it's important stuff. That is who our community has been and should be, and we all need to be listening and trying to do better. So I guess that's what I want to say.
Thank you. The good news that I heard today is that 4 pickleball courts are going to be added to Lake Michigan College's property. Also, I was talking to a neighbor of Tom Capps today, and she was describing how helpful Bella was when she talked to her on the phone about concerns about signing a contract for the pipe removal. So she just was so grateful that Bella had the patience to talk to her and explain things. So it's always great to hear how well our city staff and our DPW staff is doing. So I'm grateful for that. And that is all. If there's no more business, we're adjourned.
Actually, Mayor, so with the pickleballs, I know the pickleball club is already in communication with Lake Michigan College, and we may have more than just 4.
We're adjourned.